Thanks so much for joining us, Randy. So how long have you been with the Gospel Mission?
I'm actually in my 18th year right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What got you into it?
Well, I had a background in pastoral ministry, and when I was in transition, this position opened up, so I went down, and actually I didn't have a lot of experience in the homeless sector, but in leading a team and directing, so I came on board. Our operation was very small when I started, about 17 staff, and a bit of a mom and pop operation, so we've grown since then, and it's been a good ride.
Was it kind of a wake-up call for you when you first began with working with the homeless to really see what they suffer on a daily basis?
Yeah, absolutely, and I think probably the big thing for me was coming to the realization that most people don't wake up one day and say, I think I'm going to be homeless. Everybody's got a story, everybody's somebody's son or daughter. So many of the people we serve have families, have children, and they're estranged, and a lot of times it's a matter of bad things that have happened to them, and they end up on the street.
Right, and I do see a lot about, lots of times they're adopted, lots of kids from adopted families. There's been a history of either physical or sexual abuse, things like that, so people don't see what led up to the decisions.
That's right. There's been some interesting studies in the States, and it's called adverse childhood experience, and what we've learned to ask ourselves when we see these people is not why are you doing this, but what happened to you?
What's your pain?
Yeah, what happened in the past that put you on a path that led you to here, and then try to give them hope and say there's a way off.
Right. In your experience, what's the best way that people, when we're in the community, what's the best way people can support our homeless population?
Oh, that's a good question. I think, first of all, getting rid of the stereotypes that people don't choose to be where they're at, that it's a matter of circumstances, and then realize that we're all pretty much the same. It could happen to any of us. And so start to understand who these people are. Realize that these people too have hopes and dreams, and relationship is so important. They're not a population unto themselves. They're part of our society, and we need to embrace them as that and give them the help and support that they need.
Well, there's a big fear too, right? There's a fear associated, but in your experience, has there been a lot of reasons to have fear?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you see some people, and many of them are dealing with mental health issues and things that will upset them and that. But no, when you get to know them, I don't think there's a great deal of fear.
Well, that being aggravated, so there is a lot of mental health that plays a role here. Yeah. A lot of people are like, well, why are some people choosing to sleep on the streets, especially in the cold? And already having a pre-existing mental illness, being packed like sardines into a place like the Gospel Mission. Yeah. Can you just explain a little bit about that misconception?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're not a deluxe hotel, that's for sure. Our dormitory is very close, and there's some people that can't be in a crowd, they can't be in a closed place, and so for them, it's easier to stay outside. In fact, we've heard stories of people who have been on the street for a long time and they finally get housing. Oftentimes they can't even sleep in their bed to start. They'll actually sleep on the floor because they're just not used to it. Their body's so not accustomed to the comforts that you and I enjoy. So it's a real adjustment for them.
Right. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this show was because at Christmas time it seems to be everybody's in the spirit of giving and everybody's just so generous. And then once January, February kind of comes, it's almost like that population is forgotten. I mean, we see them on the street. It is very cold outside. I mean, it's not ideal conditions for someone that's homeless. What are your guys' needs in terms of the community and getting involved with support?
Obviously, we always have financial needs, and we've got our supporting constituency, which we appreciate. I think also volunteers. Oftentimes people want to come on and help at Christmas time because it feels good, and so oftentimes our volunteer population falls off a little bit in the new year. So if they want to get involved, come down and do that. And also just the practical needs. We give out a lot of coats, a lot of warm clothing, socks, toques, gloves, that sort of thing. So there's very practical ways that people can get involved.
Okay, so in your experience at the Gospel Mission the last 18 years, success stories? Have you had, because we did a feature on the streets talking to people, and most of the people just needed housing. That was their main need.
Right. I often tell people we serve many and we rescue some, and that's the joy. Recently, in the last 2 years, we've had one fellow. He's known as Grandpa. And we have an outreach worker that goes out every morning and actually engages with people that aren't in the shelter. And our outreach worker found Grandpa sleeping in the bush, long beard. He needed glasses, but all he had was one lens left that he would take out and hold in his eye to see. And she started a relationship with him, was able to help him get assistance, some back pay from his retirement. He was 66 years old, and today he's housed. You would not recognize him if you saw him on the street compared to his picture. Shaved, happy, has his housing, has his support now, and he's got that network of friends that he can associate with. And it wouldn't have happened without establishing that relationship. I think a lot of times people who are on the street, they get into a vicious cycle and they lose hope. And it becomes so much their life that they think there is no other life, and so they need somebody to come alongside of them and say, you know what, we can help you do better. And by walking beside them and giving them the support we need, we see some great success
That
stories.
relationship. So what do you think is the difference between a man like that and somebody who is in and out of the shelter and can't seem to get on their feet and is stuck in that cycle? What's the main difference?
We see a lot of mental illness, as we see a lot of addictions, a lot of things like that. So in those cases where you see people cycle in and out, you continue to give them the support they need, try to get them to the services that they need. And the other thing we've found when you're dealing with this, especially in addictions, oftentimes people will do good, they'll have a clean time and then they'll relapse and fall. That's part of the cycle, so you help them get back into recovery again, and every time they have a recovery a little bit longer, it's a little bit better success. And so we've seen people, it takes maybe 2, 3, 4 years for them to come through that cycle. I think of Jackie. She was on the street for years, and if you knew her then, you would think that there's no hope for this case. Now she's happily has a job, has a car, living down in Penticton, and you wouldn't know she's the same girl. But it probably took about 8 years to just walk with her and continue to support her until she came to that point.
And build that relationship.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to quickly talk to you about safe injection sites. What are your thoughts? Because a lot of people in the community, again, we're seeing things at elementary schools. We see there's disposed needles in places where kids are playing.
Right.
And we do have a very, very, it seems this is the place to be in the Okanagan for people that are struggling on the street.
I think a lot of people think, they look at harm reduction and think that we're enabling people.
That's, yeah.
My view is that I believe in harm reduction, because I think our job is to keep people safe and try to keep people alive. For me, the key is harm reduction with engagement, so that you're starting to build that relationship and maybe challenging them or giving them hope that they can do something different. So the other thing I think with people suffering with addictions, there's a lot of shame that goes with it, a lot of self-loathing, and they feel bad enough, so we don't need to put them down. We need to come along and say, hey, you're important, you're loved, you have worth as a person,
right.
And we will walk alongside with you and help you overcome this and start to do those things. So, yeah, I'm very much in favor of harm reduction if you've got that engagement with it.
Right. We're going to add someone else to the conversation. Pastor Lawrence East, I'm sure you know each other,
right.
With Metro Community. He's been working with the homeless as well. How do you guys work together, the different resources?
Well, obviously we serve a lot of the same clients and the same guests, so there's communication between our staff and his staff. I think the other thing is when Lawrence and I get together and chat, we talk about our ministries and what we do, and just to support each other. Also to make sure that we're not duplicating services.
Right.
So we're aware of what each is doing, and we each have our unique niche. and we try to do the best at what we're doing.
So collaboration, not a
Yeah.
competition for services.
Exactly.